Welcome back to the vlog and welcome here to Bialla, Western Britain, Papua New Guinea. My name is Ryan. We're heading back to Hoskins. I just did 3 helicopter...
TAWS system test. Okay.
3 helicopter shuttles. Helicopter was coming and going and coming and going, getting rid of all my cargo because I wasn't able to land where I wanted to go because it was just too muddy and they didn't finish cutting the grass, so. All right, low start, put my fuel on, over 14%, introduce my fuel. And once the ITT peaks out and starts dropping back off, we'll release the starter. Generator on, get all my other switches on, get my flaps up to 20 degrees where I want them for takeoff. Ooh, the humidity is coming out now. It was raining a little bit ago, and now the sun is bright. Caps and selectors or TAWS will turn off for takeoff. We'll just go back at probably 1,000 feet or less. And we are completely empty today, 5,300 pounds. We'll rotate at 54 and 63. 54 for rotate and 63 when we land. Our landing light and taxi lights on as we taxi up to the end. As we taxi up, I'll also get my trims starting to set up how I want them. I have full right rudder trim for takeoff. And then I set up my trim just so that I know kind of where I want my elevator trim. So as I take off, I'm not having to adjust it a lot either. All right, because we're completely empty, we don't need to use the full runway today. This is just a 2% slope down towards the ocean. Really beautiful though. We're not 50 knots by the parkway that we just came out of. We'll stop on the runway. It's pretty slippery now that it's rained for about a half hour almost. If we do need to stop, full reverse, heavy braking, cut up, pull off, and shut off going off, we'll just go off, probably just straight into the ocean because I'd rather hit a little bit of 3 or 4 feet of water than some trees. After takeoff, we'll pitch for 85 knots, get a left-hand turn towards the beach, 80 full flaps, cut up, pull off, and shut off. Masters, crack my door, and emergency button. 32 degrees, we're sea level, so 1540 for 1590. Moresby at 861, November Tango Zulu taxi.
November Tango Zulu Moresby, go ahead.
November Tango Zulu taxi, Bialla, Hoskins, 1 POB.
November Tango Zulu, stand by for any traffic.
November Tango Zulu. All stations Bialla, November Tango Zulu, taxiing Bialla for Hoskins. Will be below 5,000. Alright, ignition condition, flaps 20, fuel and harnesses. Quest is complete, 1540. Airspeed is alive. There's 50 and continuing, and there's airborne. We'll climb out at 73. 4 knots of headwind today. And just so we're not going out too far over the ocean, we'll just make our turn now. So ideally, it's just straight across the bay right here, but I'm going to be out of sight of gliding distance, so I'm just going to follow the coast along the way, because I don't have my raft, I don't have my vest on, things like that, so we'll just follow the coast, and it's probably only going to add maybe like 30 seconds, maybe a minute to the flight. And we'll also bring our torque down, throw 0 degrees of flaps, and then bring our torque on down so our fuel flow is right at like 320. So I'm not wasting a bunch of fuel that I don't need to. Well, it turned out to be a pretty nice day out over the ocean. It was really crummy this morning, lots of storms and rain, and I have to head out that way this afternoon up to KVN, which is just another hour flight up that way. I'll show you here on the map in just a second. So I am heading back over here to Hoskins. And then right after, I'm coming up here to Kavying to pick up a couple of people and then coming straight back and then spending the night again. So, I'll be picking up my water gear for that and vest and raft and whatnot, heading up there. It's just only an hour flight up there, hour back. But I thought I'd bring you along this low route right here just so I could show you, it gives you just such a different perspective when you're flying really low along the coast. You see so much more detail, you see all the streams, you see these turquoise rivers that are coming out, which are absolutely phenomenal to look at, just incredible. I'll leave our engine inlet into bypass for the flight back, just because I am below 1,000 feet, in case I suck up any birds. This is the level that they'll be at. Some of you guys have asked if I have problems with my GoPros overheating, and yes, I do. Only here, though, it seems. Like, basically, if I'm low, like right now, it's 27 degrees out, Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. But yeah, I have to cool them off every once in a while, otherwise they'll just shut off. When I'm up high, 10, 11, 12,000 feet, I really don't have any issues with them ever overheating because it's nice and cool in here, about 70 degrees typically, maybe 73. But yeah, in Hoskins, flying low, in the islands, the humidity, it's just, yeah, it gets pretty hot. All these trees that you see down here, this huge plantation, these are palm oil trees. And then there's a couple of plantations actually throughout all of West New Britain and also East New Britain, just the other side of the island. And then there's also some like factories and stuff along the way as well. I think there's one back here, and then there's one on the other side of Hoskins over by Kempe as well. So this is really interesting how there's a bunch of trees that have obviously grown out here. Either the ocean came in further, or there was like huge trees growing just straight up in the water at one time. That's really interesting. So at Bialla, what we were doing is, I was supposed to go to Lele. I've taken you guys in and out of there a couple of times before, but it's been a while since anybody's been in there, and they were cutting it, but then their lawnmower broke, so then they had to try cutting it by hand, and that really wasn't working out very well for them. So, we had helicopter head out there first, and they evaluated the airstrip and said, yeah, Mosky, it's not going to work out very well today. They haven't finished, it's really muddy, blah, 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 it's soft. So we went to Bialla instead, and then ended up doing 3 helicopter shuttles with my 880 kgs. I really, really do love flying the low route back on some of my flights. It's just such a different look. But most of the time I don't, just because I don't like sitting down here in the heat, because down here it is like, well, it's 95 degrees in here, where if I was to jump back up to 8,000 like I normally would, it'd probably get down to like 75 degrees. So yeah, 20 degrees difference with the humidity as high as it is makes a huge difference on your fatigue levels by the end of the day. If you are interested in seeing some on-the-ground content like I shot today out at Bialla, what it's like hanging out with the people there for 2.5 hours, or just walking up and down the airstrip, I have all that kind of content on my Patreon page. I know a lot of you guys have asked, hey, I'd really like to see interaction with people and what it is like on the ground and whatnot. So check out those links, that link down below, as well as my website. I have a couple of different products on there. If you guys are interested, I know a lot of you guys have asked about these checklist boxes. Can I get one for my own airplane? Really, really handy tool for keeping your eyes up and out, so you're not looking at checklists. You get halfway done, and it's really easy to see if you've missed an item, if you forgot to switch one of your switches. Oh, I'm also, if you're looking for sunglasses, I've got these on there. So anyways, just my own personal plug, but really do appreciate you guys watching my videos, and hope you guys are still enjoying them after umpteen flights of doing the same kind of thing.
Up to what's left of track.
All stations, Hoskins 127.1, November Tango Zulu, 15 miles to the east, below 1,000. Circuit time Hoskins 35. Looks like there's just a little bit of rain between us and Hoskins. We could go around the coastline if we wanted to, or we could just cut right down underneath. I'm already at 500 feet, so we'll just poke our nose up there and just see. It looks like it's just kind of like a light shower. Shouldn't be any issues whatsoever. And you can see there's this big hill right out here. That's just a volcano. And then we have another volcano over here that's also in clouds and rain. We'll stick our nose up in here and see how low the clouds actually get. It kind of goes up that way and gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And we can always go around, but we'll just take a look and see. Pilot off. Let's just do our checklist real quick. 5,200, so yeah, 62. We'll throw our lights and inlet on. Do need to go around, power up 20 degrees. Pitch for 73, maneuvers required, reset IT 740. And we'll throw our OBS on runway 30. So the runway is kind of over that way. We'll just climb up a little bit as the terrain is starting to climb up as well. All stations, Hoskins, November Tango Zulu, 8 miles to the east. We'll be tracking for a right base, runway 30, Hoskins. Let's reduce our power down. My prop is already full forward. 10 degrees of flaps and call up for SAR. All stations, Hoskins, November Tango Zulu, joining into a right base, runway 30, Hoskins. Up and harness is done. We'll be turning our base around 700, so I still have a few more 100 feet to lose. We really don't need to come in at 62. And we'll also land, let's just say we'll land around the 1,500 foot marker because it's a really long runway and there's no point in landing way down at this end and then taxiing all the way to the other end. Actually, I think I might just turn my base maybe around 900 instead. 20 degrees of flaps. Turn a base. I don't see anybody on the runway or taxiing or anything like that. We'll turn final at 700, full flaps. Checklist is complete for as far as we can go. We'll do SAR when we get on the ground.
Copied 1239 and say again, HF, you're very faint, Alpha November far.
And now we can start slowing down to our VREF speed, which is 63 knots, or 62 knots, correction. 6 knots of headwind. Really don't need to come in this slow by any means. Depending on when I get down, we'll see if there's any wind shear. There's a little bit
500.
Crosswind this way. When it hits all the coconut trees and stuff, it kind of swirls a little bit sometimes, so keep an extra 5 knots on for now. I'm just kind of crabbing a little bit into the wind as we come down, even though it's only a couple knots. Still do feel it, because this is kind of still a pretty small airplane. And then here's where a couple of the bumps start. And now I'm just caught in ground effect. And we'll just keep it on high idle for the time being, so we can just taxi, high-speed taxi down to the other end. Anyways, thanks so much for joining me on this flight. First time out to Bialla. Actually, haven't been out there in about 2 years, so I don't get to go out that often, so feel privileged that you guys got to go out there as well. So thanks for taking the time to watch. I sure do appreciate it. As always, give it a thumbs up if you thought it was worthy of a thumbs up. And consider subscribing if you guys like this kind of content. I'll put out a couple times, or video 2 times a week. If you guys like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Hit that notification bell as well. Alright, shut down. All of our switches off. Drop and feather. again, guys. Have a great one.